Good morning, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. I'm so pleased to be invited and to present the role of pharmacoeconomics in approval of new medications. It's a pity that I'm not there personally, but I hope next time I will be there. So my presentation, try to move. Yeah, so these are contents. New medications, but I would like to highlight that new indications are also very important. So I would sum up as a new medications and new indications. Clinical efficacy, safety, and effectiveness. And the last one is getting more and more importance because this is a real world data. Regulators and funders wants to see what is happening actually in the real world. Outcomes, clinical outcomes and patient-reported outcomes. The last one, patient-reported outcomes, are getting more and more important. Clinical outcomes could be disease-specific and generic. I come back to this in relation to the utility in a minute from now. Cost effectiveness, budget impact, health gain, patients and society level, health policy considerations. I pick up one very important health policy item, which is an excess. I'm going to show you some example. Data availability, this is a bottleneck of all improvement everywhere of the cost pharmacoeconomics, both epidemiology, cost and utility. I'm going to present you something about the MENA cost library, which was established together with colleagues in the past 2 years. And then one very important issue have to be highlighted is adaptability, transferability, and comparators. And I have a recommendation from the beginning and at the very last slide. You should concentrate, every country should concentrate on legal background, institutionalization, professionalization, budget, and guidelines. Professional guidelines, how to do pharmacoeconomics, how to interpret pharmacoeconomic results. So these were my, this is just my basket, and let's see what is in it in details. Because as far as I know, regulators are seated in the room or joined via online. It's very important as to see what is required by policymakers and funders. So what is required by regulators. This is very well known for most of us, but it's good to spend a half minute on it. In most countries, in most of the countries, pharmacoeconomics, or sometimes called health technology assessment, today's more of these two, the terminology is more and more used as synonyms. So practically both are the same. They're required for pharmaceuticals and medical devices claiming public funds. So this is a getting very important issue. The main aim of the pharmacoeconomics health technology assessment is informing policymakers and funders about the clinical efficacy, effectiveness, and safety. This is not so obvious. A paper was published, I think, 2 years ago in the JAMA, and concluded that 50% of the FDA registered drugs, the real clinical efficacy is not known even after the registration. Okay, so clinical studies were conducted, results were submitted to the FDA, FDA registered the drug, and most of the 50% of the cases, the outcome, the clinical outcome is unclear. And this was published in the JAMA. So this is, this is not so obvious. And of course, effectiveness is country specific. And safety. Cost effectiveness, budget impact, these are also country specific. Health gains on the individual and societal level, this is also country specific. So there is a lot to do on local level. So of course, we have to learn from each other as much as possible, but the real job have to be made locally. And as I mentioned, I pick up one very important policy, or I might say political issue, which is an access to therapy today. Because more and more very innovative drugs are on the market, But in a number of countries, and including Europe, and including the European Union, major differences between countries related to excess. So for instance, France in general, excess is a lot lower than in the Scandinavian countries or in Hungary compared to Germany, you know, and this created some kind of even political tension. What are these force hurdles? What we are measuring, the quality pharmacoeconomics. The first one, you know, appropriate pharmaceutical quality. It's pharmacoeconomics do nothing with this. Effective in the indications for which they are to be used. This is because the literature review, systematic literature review, meta-analysis, we have a lot to do here in this part. That they are safe in relation to their efficacy. It's again pharmacovigilance, is partly pharmacy and partly health economics. But these first three are needed for the registration in all countries. And the fourth one is very important for the funders and the users and the doctors and the patient and the society, because manufacturers have to demonstrate that their products represent good value for money. You know, it's a very general term. So it's very interesting to know what comes under this terminology, value for money. Very frequently, people might think that cost effectiveness is the value for money, but this is not true. Cost effectiveness is just one dimension among the many. So I'm going to show some evidence, some example. So value for money is a lot more than just cost effectiveness. Let's start with the outcome, because all pharmacoeconomic study have to be started with health outcomes. You see the WHO definition, you see the FDA definition. I'm not going to read, I don't want to spend time on it. You know, it's very general definitions. So outcome could be, as I mentioned in the beginning, clinical, patient reported outcome, could be outcome economics, could be outcome related to the society, related to patients, so lots of different things. Because I'm from Europe, so the European Medicinal Agency regulation is important for me. So EMA provides outcomes, and various disease-specific outcomes are provided by the EMA officially, and this is required by the companies if they are submitting study results in order to get their product registered. Patient-reported outcomes, as I mentioned in the beginning, gaining more and more importance in the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years, because the quality of life of the patients are getting more and more important. Still, quite many clinicians might think that this is subjective and something so-called softish, but this is getting very important by the EMA regulation. For instance, there is a definition, a patient-reported outcome by EMA, any outcome directly evaluated by patients and based on the patient's perception. This is the new thing from the past 5 years, patient perception of a disease and its treatment. What does it mean? It's a lot more or different than laboratory results, than CT results or X-ray results or any kind of clinical results, because this is perceptions, this is value from the patients. Let's see what does it mean. But first, as I mentioned, first clinical efficacy and safety. This is just an example. Some years ago, this story is already closed. There was quite a heated discussion between professionals and funders and policymakers whether infliximab biosimilar or in general biosimilar and the similar or the same clinical efficacy and safety, or it's better to say that efficacy and safety is not significantly different from the originator product. It's infliximab is there because this was the first in this category registered by the EMA. We published the paper first in Europe in 2014 when the biosimilar was not part of the standard therapy. This is as part of the standard therapy today. And we published a first meta-analysis results And we showed very clearly that there is no significant difference in terms of clinical efficacy measured by ACR 2050 response rate at 24th week. So these are disease-specific measures by the American College of Rheumatology. And if you see the meta-analysis, you can see that there is no significant difference. And this results was one of the breakthrough, because this showed very clearly that this new drug, biosimilar, can be used, and these are identical compared to the originator product. So this is, you know, if I see back, because this was published 6 years from now, so in the past 6 years, this was quoted very frequently, because this shows that this is safe, and the message to the physicians and the funders that don't hesitate, use it. And here you see the slide, even the serious adverse events has no significant difference between the biosimilar and originator products. So this was the third publication, so showed very clearly. So it has quite a good impact on the practice. Here, this is a bit more difficult, and I don't want to spend a lot of time for it, because I mentioned new indication. Rheumatoid arthritis, the new indication is the TNF-alpha inhibitor treatment for patients, for methotrexate naive patients. So this is a big step. The biosimilar is not just cheaper, but we can find a new indication. At that time, this was published, as I see, 2019, so last year. But before 2018, the NICE, the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, UK, they published a lengthy material, and they concluded that the cost effectiveness of this therapy, TNF-alpha therapy for methotrexate naive patients, is not cost effective. This was the opinion of the NICE 2017. But the material on which this opinion statement was based on was published in 2016. But the material was established and the study was conducted in 2014, and they used the cost data from 2012. I hope you can follow me. So the summary is they used the cost data related to biosimilars, TNF-alpha, infliximab TNF-alpha, the cost even before the biosimilar alternative was registered by the European Medicines Agency. So the whole, when the final material of the NICE was published, it had no relevance because the whole world changed. The same year, 2017, the European League Against Rheumatism, the EULAR, published a statement, a committee headed by Professor Smollen, and they concluded that, quotation, cost effectiveness of the first-line demand therapy is extremely poor, and no scientific evidence that the treatment with the TNF-alpha is superior compared to the treatment, superior to the methotrexate-treated patients. A Cochrane collaboration published something similar. So, and we have to start to conduct a systematic literature review. You can see here, it would take 10 minutes to explain everything, but if you are interested, please send me an email and I send you the paper. This is the visualization shows that 9 papers were published, altogether 15, but we analyzed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yes. And you see both the durations and the outcomes and the checkup time, and you know the study design changes. This is visualized in this slide, in this figure, show that there was no study comparable. So we used indirect treatment comparison methodology, and I have no time to explain everything, but at the very end, we showed very clearly that that efficacy endpoint, and at year 2, the TNF-alpha treatment of the methotrexate naive patients has a higher clinical efficacy. I mean, more health benefit, more health gain compared to the patients who are treated first with methotrexate. So this was one of the examples what I know that we showed very clearly that the drug can be used in a new indication, which was not used before. But I mentioned there is we have to establish links somehow between clinical endpoints and utility, because clinical endpoints are really needed for physicians, for patients. And utility is also needed for the patients and physicians, but differently, because this is used by the funders and policymakers, because this is the basis of the reimbursement decision. So if we cannot prove that a treatment is cost effective and the budget impact is at least acceptable, the treatment option is not available for physicians and clinicians. So this is an example. You see there are two health states. One is in rheumatoid arthritis, one is a panic disorder, which is the more severe, more patients. Directly, it's impossible to compare. Let's say what we do. We can identify the health states, health state A, the rheumatoid arthritis states, health state B, panic disorder. We use the generic health-related quality of life questionnaire, could be AQ5D3L. You have a validated version in your country. You can measure the utility, and you will be able, you are immediately able to provide a cost per quality figure ratio, because this is required by policymakers. Here, this is just repeating, because utility is important, because utility is needed to generate quality adjusted life years, QALYs, for use in cost utility analysis and healthcare interventions. In Europe, every country, this is a must. This is legal. So we have to all healthcare providers, including pharmaceutical companies, medical device providers, have to provide this figure, have to submit a pharmacoeconomic study, health technology assessment study to the funder if they want their product funded. So this is a big issue. This is not just an optional, this is a must legally. Just a visualization, you know, this is a rheumatoid arthritis. This Roman 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a health assessment questionnaire. This is used by the physicians. This is understood by the physicians. This is fine, but not enough, because we have a message to the funders and policymakers as well. And this is here what you can see. This is a 0784, you know, the quality of life are decreasing, just 04, 3, 6, 7. Oh, it's getting very worse. And you know, and finally, the patient is in the wheelchair if not available highly innovative treatment. But highly innovative treatment and highly effective treatment is available, the biological agents. And if the patients receive this agent, biological agents in time, you can see exactly the health gain in disease in the measure what is used by the rheumatologist. This is the upper level, the Roman number. These are the HAC score. And you see this utility, which is on the left side is 0784, the right side is 0022. So you can see the difference between the wheelchair health state and the health state in the middle. So you can see that the difference is 0504 minus 0022. So you know immediately you have the figure, how big is the health gain. You can add the costs, so you already ended up, and you have the whole story completed, because you see the cost effectiveness. I'm just going through quickly because it is known. You know, as I mentioned, cost effectiveness is an important part of the value, but not the whole story. For instance, you know, this is a ratio. Cheap drug with small effect could be the same cost effective and expensive drug with large effect. So this is just one dimension. This is very important, but we should not overestimate. You know, there is a whole range, different types of economic evaluations depend on the outcome what we have, like a natural, like life years saved, or stroke avoided, For utility, utility is more and more important because with utility we can compare health gains across the whole health sector, as I mentioned before. We can use a monetary value, we can just answer the question whether the two drug is identical or not, or multiple tabulated cost-consequence analysis. You know, it depends on the given situation which one should be used.
Professor,
This is unavoidable. This is what I presented in this slide, and I see I still have some minutes. More and more countries in Europe, I stated in more and more countries, cost per quality threshold. I stated officially, and this is a very good information for both regulators, funders, and healthcare providers, including pharmaceutical companies and medical devices, because this is the level under which they are welcome.
I mean, 2 minutes left.
Sorry?
I have 2 minutes, yes? 2 more
Yeah,
minutes.
yes. I'm almost ready. So let's see what we have, because what I mentioned, we need a lot of cost, and we need a lot of cost health economics analysis. Here, we published a paper last year, how many and what kind of health economics evaluations were published in international journals in English. You know, it would take more time than just half minute. If you want to see a firm to read the paper, I am more than pleased. And this is one of my last slides, because not too many health economics analyses I provided locally, and this is the same in Hungary. You have to concentrate on accepting data from other jurisdictions. I just use one. This is excess. You see, this is just half minute. Now, excess use biologicals in rheumatoid arthritis in 6 European countries. On the vertical axis, you see the GDP per capita. On the this is the horizontal. Vertical axis, how many patients are treated by 100,000 population. This was a rheumatoid arthritis. And you see big differences, 28 European Union countries, and this is the access to rituximab in all indication in all countries. You see huge differences in Europe. And this is one of the important part of the pharmacoeconomics, to advise policymakers and funders how to narrow these differences. And you know, this is a very important policy issue today. And finally, last slide, because my time is over. These are my recommendations. Very important to have a clear institutionalization, professionalization, I mean trainings, guidelines, if we want to establish something in this field. Local data is essential. I think I don't need to over-explain. Everybody shares this opinion. Without sufficient amount and good quality local data, it's impossible to do anything. Transferability, it's very often neglected, although no country can provide enough health pharmacoeconomic studies, so we have to transfer results from another jurisdiction. This is itself a methodological issue and challenge. And my final one, don't ever promise more than you can deliver. I think this is the most important recommendations to us, to me, to you, to everybody, because the expectation is high, but we can deliver a couple of things, but not everything. Thanks very much.